The night before my sister's wedding, I went to bed in the guest room with a full heart and a half-finished card for her sitting on the nightstand. I'd spent the last 2 weeks helping organize everything, the catering, the seating chart, even sewing a last-minute hem on her rehearsal dress. I hadn't been invited to give a toast, but I told myself it didn't matter. I was just happy to be there. Around 3 a.m., I woke up gasping. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. There was this sharp, burning pressure across my cheekbone, then my mouth, something wet, hot, then the metallic taste, blood. I sat up, disoriented, dizzy, and that's when I saw them. My parents, standing over me with my sister's silver centerpiece vase in Dad's hand. Mom didn't even flinch. "Serves you right for trying to upstage your sister," she hissed. "Let's see them take pictures of this face tomorrow." I choked. What are you talking about?" Dad laughed as if I'd asked him to recite a joke. "You should have stayed invisible, but no. You had to wear makeup. You had to stand too close to the groom's mother. You're nothing. You're the backdrop." I tried to stand. My vision blurred from the pain. My lip was split. My eye was swelling fast. "Stay down," Mom said coldly. "You already ruined the dress rehearsal just by being there. Tomorrow's her big day. Not yours." I stared at them. These were the people who raised me, who held my hand during thunderstorms, who told bedtime stories. They looked at each other and raised their champagne glasses, leftovers from the rehearsal dinner. "To peace and perfection," Dad toasted. "One less distraction." And they clinked. I crawled into the bathroom, locked the door. My hands shook as I turned on the light. The mirror made me scream. My cheek was deep red, swelling fast. A jagged gash ran just above my eyebrow. Blood dripped from my lips. I looked like I'd been mugged. I couldn't tell anyone, not yet, not in that house. I curled up on the bathroom floor, holding a towel to my face. I didn't cry, not even once. That scared me more than the injury. I felt nothing, just cold. In the morning, my sister banged on the door. "You better not make a scene. Don't you dare ruin this." Mom's voice joined hers. "You either come out and put on that dull gray dress we picked for you or you leave. Quietly." I opened the door. They all recoiled. "Oh my God," my sister muttered. "You look, Jesus, what did you do to yourself?" Before I could answer, Mom snapped. "She probably fell. She's clumsy, always has been." Then she turned to me and whispered low, "And no one will believe you over us." I watched as she pushed a concealer stick into my palm like a threat. An hour later, I stood at the back of the church with a face so bruised and patched up, I looked like a ghost. Guests turned to look, some concerned, some confused. Not one person asked me if I was okay. During the vows, Mom leaned over and whispered, "Smile, at least pretend to be useful." Dad chuckled. "She's lucky we even let her attend." That was the moment something inside me cracked. Not broke. Cracked. Sharp, thin, and precise like the tip of a scalpel. They thought I'd stay small. That I'd slink away, forget, disappear. But I was done being their background. And I already knew exactly what I'd do. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the thin curtains, but it felt like knives slicing through my skull. Every pulse in my face throbbed. I tried to move my jaw and felt the sharp sting where the skin had split overnight. My reflection looked worse than before. Dark purple swelling under one eye, dried blood at the corner of my mouth, and a scratch that curved down my cheek like a cruel signature. Downstairs, laughter floated up from the kitchen, the kind of laughter that pretends nothing happened. I heard my father's booming voice. "Big day today. Our perfect daughter's wedding. Nothing can ruin it." My mother chimed in. "I made sure of that." And my sister's giggle followed, airy and self-satisfied. I sat there frozen, hands clutching the edge of the bed. The anger didn't come in one hit. It built in quiet layers, shock first, then confusion, then disbelief, until finally something deeper settled in, something colder than rage. I stood, washed my face with cold water, and wrapped a scarf around the bruises. When I went downstairs, Mom looked up from the table and gave a rehearsed gasp. "What happened to your face?" she said, loud enough for the caterers to hear. "You should have been more careful walking in the dark." Dad sipped his coffee. "Maybe clumsy runs in the family," he muttered, eyes sparkling with mock amusement. I wanted to scream the truth. I wanted to pull the vase out of the trash and shove it into the middle of the breakfast table and shout, "This is what you did to me." But I didn't, because I remembered how fast they rewrote stories, how easily they turned me into a liar. Every bruise I'd ever had, every tear they'd labeled as attention-seeking. No one believed the invisible daughter. So I sat, quietly, and watched. When we arrived at the wedding venue, a lakeside hall with crystal chandeliers and white roses everywhere, I stayed at the edge of the crowd. My sister, glowing in her designer gown, walked down the aisle arm in arm with Dad, the same man who'd nearly broken my nose 12 hours ago. Mom followed proudly, whispering to guests, "Both my girls look radiant today." I saw the pitying looks people gave me. They thought I'd had an accident. Some whispered that maybe I was jealous and cried myself swollen. No one asked for the truth. They never did. After the ceremony, I stood near the catering tent while everyone toasted champagne. My sister's husband lifted his glass to my parents. "You've raised the most beautiful woman I've ever met," he said. Everyone clapped. My father turned and raised his glass too, looking straight at me. "To family," he said with a smirk. "Even the ones who try their best not to ruin photos." The crowd laughed. My stomach twisted. Mom leaned toward a group of women and whispered loudly enough for me to hear. "She used to be pretty, before she stopped taking care of herself. Always wanted to steal her sister's spotlight." Their giggles cut deeper than any bruise. That's when I felt my phone buzz in my purse. A message from the only person who ever believed me. "You okay?" It was my coworker from the library, Sarah. She'd seen me leave work early yesterday to come home for the wedding. I typed back, "Not really, but soon." For the rest of the reception, I walked through the crowd like a ghost, collecting memories. I listened. I memorized every cruel sentence, every mocking smile. I watched my parents dance to soft jazz, clinking their glasses again, whispering, "Finally, something to be proud of." And that's when an idea began forming, slow, sharp, and deliberate. Not revenge through chaos, not screaming, not exposure, revenge through image. They cared about appearances more than life itself. Their pride wasn't love, it was currency. They spent it at church, at community meetings, at dinner parties. Our perfect family, our perfect daughters. They lived for it, so I decided to take it. After the reception, while the newlyweds posed for professional photos, I slipped into the bride's suite. My sister's phone was sitting unlocked on the vanity beside her lipstick and perfume. One tap, and I found everything. Her message threads with her friends, her fiancé's bachelor party photos, the not-so-innocent texts between her and the wedding planner. Every secret they'd tried to bury under champagne and pearls was right there. I didn't steal anything. I didn't send them out. Not yet. I just took pictures. Quiet, precise, time-stamped. Then I opened my father's phone from his jacket pocket. He never locked it. Inside, hundreds of messages with local officials, suppliers, business partners, money, bribes. His career built on hidden deals and fake donations. And Mom? Her private email folder named Helping Hands. It was full of emails asking relatives for urgent support for my struggling daughter, Jessica, attaching my photo. She'd collected money in my name for years, telling them I was sick or unemployed, while calling me useless to my face. By the time the wedding ended, I had everything I needed. That night, they toasted again in the living room, champagne glasses clinking, music playing, my sister's laughter ringing through the house. I stood in the hallway doorway, face half lit by the lamp. Dad raised his glass toward me with mock politeness. "You can smile now, sweetheart. It's all over." Mom added, "You'll never be the pretty one, but at least you didn't ruin anything." My sister smirked. "Guess that vase really knocked some sense into you." They all laughed, and I did something they didn't expect. I smiled, a calm, strange, steady smile, the kind that made Mom's laughter stop first, because she didn't know, none of them knew, that by morning, the image of perfection they'd guarded their whole lives would start crumbling. The files were already uploaded, the emails already scheduled, and for the first time since I was a child, I didn't feel small. I felt awake. I didn't sleep that night, not because of the pain. I'd gotten used to that kind of ache long ago, but because for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of them anymore. The house that used to feel like a prison now just felt temporary, like a stage set waiting to be torn down. At 5 a.m., before dawn, I walked out of my room, careful not to wake anyone. The living room still reeked of champagne and perfume. Half-empty glasses lined the coffee table. Someone's bouquet had wilted on the carpet. My parents were passed out on the couch, still in their wedding clothes, my sister snoring softly on the armchair with her shoes kicked off. I stood there and watched them, 3 people who'd built their entire existence on how things looked, not what they were. They thought last night was their victory, that they'd finally humiliated me into silence. They didn't know that the same obsession with image would destroy them, because earlier that night, when I was alone upstairs, I had done what I do best, worked quietly. From my laptop, I'd scheduled 3 anonymous email drops, each one set to go out at 9 a.m. sharp. One to my father's biggest client list with copies of his under-the-table payments and fake invoices. One to my mother's charity donors showing how she used my photo and made up sob stories about her sick daughter. And the last, the most delicate, to my sisters-in-laws, with just a handful of screenshots, not explicit, not cruel, just enough to make them ask questions she couldn't answer. I wasn't out for chaos. I was out for truth. At 8:30 a.m., I packed my bag. My face throbbed with every heartbeat, but I didn't hide it this time. The swelling, the bruise, they weren't shame anymore. They were evidence. I slipped on my coat and went into my son's room. He blinked awake when I touched his shoulder. "Mom?" "Time to go, sweetheart." "Where?" "Somewhere warm, somewhere nobody lies to us." He nodded without a word, trusting me completely, the way only a child who's seen too much can. We left before anyone stirred. The morning air bit cold, but it felt cleaner than it ever had. I didn't even look back at the house. At exactly 9 a.m., as we waited at the bus stop, my phone started vibrating nonstop. 1 notification, then another, then hundreds. Dad's clients, Mom's donors, my sister's new-in-laws, all of them replying, calling, forwarding, demanding explanations. Within hours, everything they'd built began to unravel. By noon, Dad's office was in meltdown. A client leaked one of the payment threads online. Nothing illegal on my part, just truth that couldn't be spun. His phone was still ringing when I saw the news alert. Local businessman under investigation for falsified donations. Mom's Helping Hands Foundation's website went offline by the afternoon. One of her donors, my aunt, had posted screenshots of every fraudulent email Mom had ever sent. She lied using her own daughter's name, she wrote. She said the poor girl had medical bills. Turns out the girl was never told. And my sister? By evening, her husband's family canceled the honeymoon. The photos of her texting the wedding planner spread through the small-town gossip circles like fire in dry grass. None of them called me. Not once. Instead, by the second night, my phone buzzed with a single message from Dad. No greeting, no denial, just 5 words. "You think this fixes anything?" I typed back slowly. "No, it just shows it was never broken, only fake." And I turned off my phone. The weeks that followed were quieter than I expected. My son and I moved into a small apartment above Clara's bakery, the same Clara who'd given me my first real kindness months ago. She didn't ask what happened. She just left a blanket folded on the couch and said, "New start means no explanations." I took a job helping her manage the books. My son started school nearby. He made a friend, his first real friend, and came home one afternoon with a drawing of the 2 of us standing under a big yellow sun. He said, "Mom, I made you look happy." I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in years. 2 months later, I received an invitation in the mail. No return address. It was a photograph printed on expensive paper. My parents sitting in their once proud living room, now half empty, auction signs visible through the window. My sister sat beside them, mascara streaked, expression hollow. Across the photo, in Mom's handwriting, were the words, "Are you happy now?" I pinned it to the refrigerator, not out of spite, out of remembrance. Because happiness wasn't watching them fall. Happiness was knowing they couldn't hurt me anymore. One evening, after closing the bakery, Clara found me sitting on the porch steps, staring at the sunset. "You ever think you went too far?" she asked softly. I shook my head. "No, I think I finally went far enough." She smiled a little. "Good. Just don't look back too long. Even revenge loses its shine if you stare at it." I looked toward the horizon, the last of the light hitting my healing scar. It didn't bother me anymore. It wasn't ugly now. It was a map, proof of what I survived, proof that I could endure and rebuild. A year later, I opened my own small cafe in town, part bakery, part art space. I called it Glass and Grace. People always asked about the name. I'd smile and say, because both can break, but only one reflects light afterward. Every day, I watched my son laugh with the warmth I once thought we'd never feel again. And sometimes, late at night when I closed up shop, I'd pass a newspaper stand and see my parents' names in tiny print, a reminder of the scandal they couldn't outlive, of the lies they could never clean. They used to toast to perfection. Now the only thing left for them to taste was regret. I didn't destroy them. They did that themselves. I just gave the world the mirror they'd smashed against me, and this time, I was the one holding it steady. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.